Okay. Looks like it's time. $3.28. Cool, isn't it? I mean, here I am. Doing stuff. Sitting here just watching the world. And as usual, I have no idea what I'm doing. Trying to get all the controls. I'm doing a single screen. So that is not the message it's supposed to have done. You silly thing. So, I'm here. I'm live-ish. And of course, YouTube Studio's being a pain. Such delays. Very pain. Oh, don't start prepping the computer. I haven't heard any whether my sound's working. But give my luck. Computer. Computer. Oh, it's not letting me post on Discord, so scratch that. Guess I'll just have to go on without it. I can't tell if my YouTube Studio is working right or not, so lovely. Let's get to it. It says I'm on. Anyway. Says I'm streaming. Twitch is being a pain. Just feel my computer being hit in the ass. Live for 7 minutes now. My audio is shot to hell. So, now the slideshow's not showing up. There we go. Oh, come on. Can we not glitch for one little minute? Anyway. Oh, that was loud. So, wonderful slideshow that I did completely impromptu. So, this is pretty much, about me. Thus, a very awkward title. Anyway, it's Kintran Valgrige. And I love my little subtitle. The official, not really debut stream. And, well, since the slideshow's not showing yet, so I'll fix that by doing this. Hello. Studio mode would probably do a lot better with dual monitors, but I don't have dual monitors, so I'm just doing it this way. Make sense? Good. I kind of hope it would. Anyway, this is me, Kintran Valgrige. And, well, welcome to the stream. I am a wolf. Next slide. Maybe. Yeah. Male wolf, if you couldn't tell. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm male. Oh, bear came in. Hey, Escalad, how you doing? That's hoping the sound is coming through. Hey, King Mall. Hey, Escalad, you notice you've got a diamond next to you? Twitch decided I had enough followers that I could give VIPs. So, you got one. You're welcome. I think I've only given out 2 of them. I gave one to you and I gave one to Clover, who I'm kind of surprised hasn't shown up yet. Oh well. How you doing, Kimal? Anyway, doing the whole slideshow thing that I literally typed this morning while I was watching you stream. And I wasn't even done with it before I got kidnapped by family to go do stuff. But luckily, they got me home in time to get started. But yeah. Anyway, good to hear. Anyway, if you couldn't tell, I'm a wolf. Uh, if you go by species, that would be considered a Eurasian gray. But since most fairy tales started in Europe, that's appropriate. I am 5'8", or 172 centimeters. That's not counting the years. I don't t- don't tend to talk about my weight because, as far as things go, I'm not a little husky. I'm a lot Malamute. I never really considered 5'8" tall, considering most people I know are taller than me, which is strange, but still. The age, considering who and what I am, it's always up for debate. Because, well, why? You're 5'5"? Not bad. You're a very small bear, but that's good. But I said the aging is difficult to maintain because of the nature of my particular type. We can die, but that doesn't really keep us down. And there's reasons behind that. Let's see. Next slide. Okay. I did the whole likes, dislikes thing because, yes, people need to know that kind of thing. I am a coffee drinker. I also drink tea. I drink a lot of rum because rum is good. Uh, I'm primarily carnivorous. I'm omnivorous, but I prefer meat. And when given the chance, it's either deer or boar. Wild boar is quite tasty. And do like reading and play video games, which is pretty much what I do on my streams. I read and I play video games. Makes sense, right? Dislikes. Not a big fan of fish. I will eat it. Pretty much them all. There's the thing about the immortality of a fairy tale creature that's really tricky. Sure, you can kill us. Like the guy who ate 7 kids. Yeah, he got sliced open and literally had open stomach surgery and had rocks put in him, which he lived through. Then he supposedly drowned in a river. Yeah, who told the story if he drowned? Which, though, drowning is one of the reasons I'm not big on fish. Because I'll eat them if I have to. If I catch them, yeah, sure, why not? But, I've tried a lot of fish. Wasn't really fond of any of them. I can even say I've eaten shark. It just didn't taste right. Uh, gin. There's a reason behind that. Bad reaction to berries. Elderberries, not so much. Juniper berries, yeah. What the hell is a Drumpa? Oh, well. Got the Pokemon game going in my stream. Uh, I do have to say that I suffer from depression, but honestly, I don't know anyone who enjoys it. And generally, being around people with bad attitudes kind of makes me, well, gives me a bad attitude. Kind of take in the people around you. Thus, I hang out with these cool bears and fun wolves and all the other ones. I don't even remember what my next slide was. I did 6 slides and I don't remember half of them. It's this one. Oh, the lore. As I already mentioned, that fairy tale character. Well, I tend to be wordy when I type things out, so I typed out words. It's like, we all know that, well, fairy tales change ever so slightly from region to region, but they all seem to tell the same stories. Honestly, if anyone's heard me doing the Norwegian fairy tales, the Irish fairy tales, and the Grimm's fairy tales, you will notice that one story or two stories are almost the exact same through all of them. But ever wonder why the stories come from? Well, someone has to be telling the stories and traveling to spread them around the world. Well, spoken word tends to lead to different versions, and they are all told by a personal perspective. It's always a witness that sees these things. That's why you hear what the people say and what they are and everything else. Well, having said that, I'm a storyteller. That's kind of what I do. I'm both participant and witness, as storytellers tend to be. Things get distorted as they're passed on. I read things how they've changed. And of course, what does that mean? I see the changes. Well, if I'm there, I'd see them. That's why some stories get to be so predictive, and why some people claim that I can foresee the future. I'm not seeing the future, I'm seeing the patterns of things that have already happened. Which, really disturbs me with the way I see things going on. But being part of the story does that. Ever since I got kicked out of the Garden of Nod, yes, that's wink and blink and a nod. It's pretty much the fairy tale realm. Uh, I'd go into that more, but that's something else that's coming up later. Anyway, fairy tale creatures have had to blend in with our surroundings, and how else are we going to pass as normal, everyday people if we can't change ourselves, right? I mean, what's a glamour for? Anyway, fairy tale magic is primarily arcane. We can change the world, but it tends to be specifically in our general area. We can only affect that which affects us. So, that's one of the reasons why I'm still around. Because someone made a wish. And a wish is a powerful spell. I wanted to tell stories, wished it even. So my wish gave me the ability to do so. My wish, well, the first wolf's wish, was simply to live. Well, wishes are tricky, and it binds us. We wish to live, but that makes it so we have to live. Which essentially is part of the immortal issue. Honestly, well, I love this slide because I just completely went off the rails. Honestly, this would make a better story video than me typing. I believe this is what a cub would call meta. Knowing you are a story because you're a character in it, unable to stop living until the story is no longer told. Or, I did this. Hey, Gubs. Some of you may not know who I am. Well, not many people really do. Honestly, I did this before I even started doing PNG. So it's a little dated. So bear with me. Or with me, bear. But I'm Kintran Valgrige. Who am I, you might ask? Well, I'm a storyteller. I tell stories. It's what I do. I like telling stories. I like playing video games.
Of myself.
And occasionally I give life advice. I'm fairly new to the whole VTuber thing. I have streamed before, but I'm just now getting to where I get to show an avatar, so kind of cool. Anyway, who I am is an interesting subject in its own self. I know I was kind of thinking about doing an introductory video, but yeah. The people in this picture, the four wolves, they're all me. Yeah. Thing is, I'm a writer and I like to, like I said, tell stories. So, I also like to sing, tell stories, cook, and play video games. Seems easy enough, right? Well, here's the thing every aspect of me is a different wolf. I'm all here. The one that you see right now is, this dude right here. Yep, that's me in the flesh, sort of. Of course, I'm laughing about what I'm seeing going on because there's actually a very long story about this. So, it's the story I wrote when I first started watching VTubers. I was thinking, you know, these people do all sorts of things. I've seen them cook online. I've seen them play video games. I've seen them talk, and I've definitely heard them sing. The story I wrote leads up to this picture here. Four wolves in a bar. This is one of my favorite pieces of art. I do have everyone credited on it. Let me get out of the way so I can see all signatures. Down here behind, well, move my coffee link real quick. Coffee alerts, move up. Okay. Fan Artsy. She is the one who did the background and the wolf up on stage. She's awesome. I have everyone's links down in my about page, so I really need to find a better way to have that the coffee thing. Then, of course, the one who did my artwork. That was done by Dino. Dino is also linked down below. The adventurer, who is currently dying of embarrassment, was done by Beast Studios. That's their logo in the top right. And my wolf at the bar, the pirate, rogue, and, well, basically the one I use for cooking, was done by Absolute Zero. See his little stamp down there in the bottom left. So those are my four wolves. From the stage to the bar, it is Wenchkoa, Valgrige, Snowborn, and Strider. Right, so those are me. If I tell stories, I usually tell it by their perspectives. If I do music, I'm usually doing it as Wenchkoa. If I'm doing education, reading, that kind of thing, it's usually done by Valgrige. If I'm playing video games, if mods are possible, it will look like Snowborn. And if and when I ever do any cooking or stuff like that, I'll do that under Strider. But for now, let me go into what I really like to do. Storytelling. Yep, that's me. The guy holding the book. I am talking. I was quite impressed by the fact I was able to do this, but hello, this is me. Yeah. If you look around me, this is my library. See? Lots of books. But if you also notice, it's not just books. You see, my personal story, let me get here so I can narrate right, is I am actually a mage. All four of the wolves are. Well, all four of the wolves are technically wolves of legend. I'll say it that way. We each do have our own little immortal quotes and quirks. The pirate, well, he was a pirate. He's technically the first of us created. He was, as I said, a pirate. He freed slaves and eventually married one of the slaves he rescued. Continued piracy until, well, he's immortal. She wasn't. So he technically mourns her loss from the rest of his lives, as it would be. He knows the most about love and loss, and quite frankly, he's sick of it. So he tries not to do anything about it because the memory of his tiger lily always weighs on his mind. Whereas the white wolf, he was a Viking, he was a hunter. He's had several lives of his own, but being the snowborn, he can be resurrected under certain circumstances. He has to die with the blood of his enemies on his hand, or just on him. It doesn't really specify his hands. And he has to be buried in snow. Anywhere from 3 days to a week later, he wakes up. And he won't have. He'll lose his memory depending on how long he was gone. That's the thing that he hates the most about his life. He knows he's lived, he knows he's died, and he knows that he's forgotten. Occasionally he'll get flashbacks. Not always good ones, but he does get flashbacks. When Chikoa, the musician, he's the youngest of us, I'll say. He really didn't come about until, the 20s. So he has this, well, I would say the 20s, but he's actually, the youngest of us. He's still 100 or so years old. Well, I guess I would put him in the 20s anyway. But he loves jazz. He loves music in pretty much any form he can find it. And that's why he's the one who's on stage. He does play instruments, usually the bass. Uh, when he sings, his singing isn't that great, but he does have quite a range. I think if he recorded himself enough times, he'd do the entire song of Bohemian Rhapsody by himself. And I'm not going to try to let him try it. So, then there's me. I do live philosophically. See, my particular story is as long as I keep record of what goes on and tell these stories of what we do, I continue living. I've done a lot of research into how or why this works, and quite frankly, I haven't found anything other than finding that Strider was the first one of our kind. We don't know if there's others out there. We haven't run across any others. But, I don't know if it's tied to bloodline or curse or what, but me and my associate Kel, who works in the occult bookstore that I run, well, she knows. She's not technically one of us, but she might as well be, since she's been around since the Middle Ages, apparently. She's a little older than me, yet she never tries to pull off the whole mommy vibe thing. We do live together. No questions. Got it. Cool. But she's also, you know, magic user. So we get along fairly well. She helps me keep track of the books, helps me do my studies, and well, we kind of keep our cover together. You know, the cult bookstore, they wouldn't think anything about a couple of, magically inclined people or magically acting people running it. So we do what we do. But, that's as far as characterization goes. The real me, I, I'm a storyteller. The first script that I wrote involved me, and it was quite um, an interesting situation with that. I wrote a story about an author who wrote his own ending, and well, after he passed, the story continued, carried over by everyone else he knew. No one saw who was writing the script, they just knew that it was being written. And I purposefully never finished writing that script because it was getting a little creepy. Which, is essentially the basis of, me. As long as I keep writing, the story keeps being written. And I continue. So, that's about all I can think about of me. As I said, I like playing video games. I like reading bedtime stories. I like collecting old books. In fact, the book I'm looking at on my desk right now, not the one in my hand, but one on my desk, is Wit and Wisdom of America that was printed in 1911. Let me tell you, some of the jokes have not aged well. I could read one, but I'll save that for a stream. Anyway, as I said, I was figuring I'd do an introductory video just to kind of give an example of who and what I am. So, here it is. What do you think, Cubs? I think I was really long winded. I was actually going to read some of the book that I mentioned in that video during the stream just because I felt like it. I think I marked two different spots on it. But anyway, that's enough of the lore. Now let's do more of what I actually do now. Something I just recently started doing was have a whole question and answer thing. That I love getting doxxed by programs. There's a program called Telenym that, quite frankly, people can ask questions anonymously, and I'm listed on it. So far to date, I've answered 800 and something questions since the beginning of the year. People genuinely seem curious about what I think about things. It's weird. I also read. When I read, I tend to read here. The oldest book I've read is literally the one I have pictured right there. How many people can say that they have books written by 19th century priests solely on the subject of werewolves? Did a lot of other things too. In fact, one of the things he's most known for is a song. Hear the song? This guy wrote it. Well, he wrote the words, he didn't write the music. Still, this werewolf researcher. Who's the guy for Unward Christian Soldiers. Crazy. But anyway, the things that I've read, this one's generally the oldest. Well, oldest in print. Versus the newest, not yet in print, which is. Well, I mentioned Clover might show up, but I guess she hasn't. I'm reading this one and trying to do a recording for her to pretty much the audiobook recording of it. Which, I like doing. I'll read audiobooks if I can. And then, of course, there's one that Escalade should know. Oh, this is one that actually has the Ashlad stories in it. And I've been reading this on Thursdays lately. As opposed to what I read on Fridays, which would be this. I was reading these last night. The copy I got of this, it didn't even have the dust cover, so I literally just wrote the title on it. But the copy I have is fairly new. But it's interesting to know that these stories have been around since 1907, when they were first written down. I think I've gotten maybe a third of the way through the book. And oddly enough, like I was saying, a lot of the stories go across Europe. As looking back at the stories I've done from the Irish folk tales, this one, the Irish folk tales, the Brothers Grimm, and the Bjornson and Moe, a lot of the stories are the same. Only the names have been changed. As on this one, where it has Ashlad, ones I was reading last night in Brothers Grimm, the main character is named Simpleton. But the stories were almost the exact same. And again, same character types show up here. I read, this was probably a small book. It only had 20 stories or so in it. I started reading this one on St. Patrick's Day and had it finished in under a month. But the thing that started me reading the stories was, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. Because, well, I like reading Edgar Allan Poe. My first recorded stories I did were from this book. I mean, specifically from this book. As opposed to the things I was trying to read during Valentine's Day and hopefully educate some people. Is this one. It's interesting, and I had a lot of quips and such to it that I kept adding. And then, of course, I had the Brothers Grimm version, but then I had alternative fairy tales, and this one. But this one is more about empowering, so I think it's the only modern book I have on my list. But like I'd mentioned in the video, my oldest physical book right now is this one. Funk and Wagnalls. That says how old it is. The copyright, the Copyrights listed in it from Bob's Merrill is 1907, and then from the Thwing Company in 1911. So needless to say, this is a safe book for me to read. I did say I was going to read something from this, so I was going to go ahead and do it this segment. So if you want to hear me read some of the stuff from this one, I'm about to. So, this story is When Doctors Disagree by S.E. Kaiser. He looked at my tongue, and he shook his head. This was Dr. Smart. He thumped my chest, and then he said, "Ah, there it is, your heart. You mustn't run, you mustn't hurry, you mustn't work, you mustn't worry. Just sit down and take it cool. You may live for years, I cannot say. But in the meantime, make it a rule. Take this medicine twice a day." He looked at my tongue, and he shook his head. This was Dr. Wise. "Your liver's a total wreck," he said. "You must take more exercise. You mustn't eat sweets. You mustn't eat meats. You must walk and leap. You must also run. You mustn't sit down in the dull old way. Get out with the boys and have some fun. And take 3 doses of this a day." He looked at my tongue, and he shook his head. This was Dr. Bright. "I'm afraid your lungs are gone," he said, "and your kidney isn't right. A change of scene is what you need. Your case is desperate indeed. And bread is the thing you mustn't eat. Too much starch. But, by the way, you henceforth must live on only meat, and take 6 doses of this a day." Perhaps they were right, and perhaps they knew. It isn't for me to say. Mayhap I erred, and when I madly threw their bitter stuff away. But I'm living yet, and I'm on my feet, and grass isn't all I dare to eat. And I can walk, and I can run, and I worry too. But save my life, I cannot see what some of the able doctors would do if there were no more fools like me and you. Uh, Medical practice hasn't changed, has it? Of course, then I've got the first one from this book, The 9 Little Goblins. It's very fun to read. They all climbed up on a high board fence, 9 little goblins with glass green eyes. 9 little goblins that had no sense, and couldn't tell coppers from cold mince pies. And they all climbed up on the fence and sat, and asked them what they were staring at. And the first one said, as he scratched his head, with a queer little arm that reached out of his ear, and rasped his claws in his hair so red, "This is what this little arm is for." And he scratched and stared, and the next one said, "How on earth do you scratch your head?" And he laughed like a screech of a nasty hinge, laughed and laughed till his face grew black, and then he choked with a final twinge of his stifling laughter and thumped his back with a little fist that grew at the end of his tail, but till breath came back his lips so pale. And the third little goblin leered around me, and there were no lids on his eyes at all. And he clucked one eye, and he says he, "What is your style of socks this fall?" And he clapped his heels, and I sighed to see that he had hands where his feet should be. Then a bald-faced goblin, grey and grim, bowed his head, and I saw him slip his eyebrows off as I looked at him, and paste them over his upper lip. And then he moaned in remorseful pain, "Ah, would I have my brows again." And while the whole of the goblin band rocked on the fence top to and fro, and clung in a long row hand in hand, singing the songs that they used to know, singing the songs that their grandsires sung in the goo-goo days of the goblin tongue, And ever they kept their green glass eyes fixed on me with a stony stare, till my own grew glazed with dread surmise, and my hat whooped up in the lifted air. And I felt the heart in my chest snap, and you've heard the lid of a snuff box do. And they sang, "You're asleep. There is no board fence, and never a goblin with green glass eyes. He's only a vision that mind invents after a supper of cold mince pies. And you're doomed to dream this way," they said, "and you shan't wake up till you're clean plumb dead." Old stuff. As I said, I do also play video games. If my video cooperates. If it'll come up. My computer's refusing to cooperate, which is what my computer tends to do. I do play through console and do remote play on the laptop. I don't know. There we go. And of course, the last game I played. Come on, you silly thing. Technology. It's wonderful when it works. Love how the audio for it's coming through. Now I'm getting echoes. Anyway, love how technology works so well. There we go. Yeah, ignore the screen. I do play quite a few games online, especially that one I got just so I could play with people online. My favorite ones. I've got videos of me playing most of these, but between those and I also played PS4 and also on the Xbox when it wants to cooperate. Of course, it's not going to cooperate either. So let's go back here. uh, really can't think of much else to go into. other than to, thank the artist that I had. Like my chat window, the one who did my opening screen, my be right back, and my ending screens. Those were all done by Fox Darlin. Let's see, shout out for her. And she's the one who did my overlays and screens. My model was done